I want to start tonight off by reading my artist statement to you guys. So, I create sculptures that, like myself, are constantly under threat of collapse. They are tired, yet they continue to stand strong. The pieces are made from rebar, wood, and concrete. These materials are often used to support strong structures, but I manipulate them and put them in vulnerable, unstable, and sometimes threatening states. The work evokes a sense of a tenuous kinship. The tensions in these works are the tensions within myself. I want to care deeply for others, but when I do, my own needs are neglected. I need to care for myself, but I'm afraid to neglect the needs of others. Caring for others is exhausting when they do not care back, but I am strong enough to keep caring, to keep standing. And yet sometimes admitting I'm too weak to stand, sometimes choosing to care for myself, requires an even greater strength. These tensions are not easily resolved. I will continue struggling to adequately care for both others and myself. I may bend to the point of breaking, but I will not collapse. Making art is a focused meditation where I can study my own sentiments and experiences. If I'm able to make an experience clear to myself, then maybe I'm able to make it clear to someone else as well. Art, especially my art, asks you to perceive what it is on its own level. It has its own moments of reassurance, defeat, exhaustion, hurt. Yet there are also still moments of hope and strength. I began this year exploring ideas of balance and weight because I felt as if there was little balance in the relationships in my life. My sculptures are similar to my relational tendencies. These sculptures aid in my self-understanding. In them, I'm externalizing myself. These sculptures bear the postures of these moments and experiences. I tried to force relationships to work, force them to stay together. I gave relentlessly to relationships with people who didn't care because I cared so deeply about them. I was falling apart, but still strong and standing. In order to express these feelings of weight, disequilibrium, defeat, exhaustion, and hurt, I used chunks of telephone poles, rebar, and large pieces of lumber. It is important that these sculptures are figurative and larger than the average human. Their size and weight evoke a sense of being overpowered by the emotions that I have felt for many years. All of these materials are typically used to build sturdy and sound structures, yet I'm manipulating them and putting them in vulnerable, unstable, and sometimes threatening states. I use natural yet utilitarian materials to evoke or to demonstrate what is typically functional and practical is taken out of context and is no longer usable or safe. I chose to use the telephone pole pieces because they evoke a sense of history. These poles all used to stand tall and strong, and now they're cut into small chunks, trying so desperately to be tall again. Their surfaces are worn, weathered, and exhausted. This is especially seen in my piece Self-Portrait, which is this one right here to the left. This sculpture must be anchored to the wall, the floor, and throughout each other in order to stay standing. It is not physically able to rest on the wall like my piece of feet or the piece in the other room torn. Self-Portrait is bracing itself for what is to come. It is in a dangerous situation, yet is trying so desperately to stand tall. It is a threat to itself as well as the others around it. If it falls, it's taking everything around it down with it. Being a threat to itself and others heightens attention every time someone comes close. The rebar is bending subtly by the weight that it's trying so desperately to lift. In Hold Yourself Together, which is the piece directly in the back on the right, the tension is still there, giving a sense that it may fall apart with any wrong move. The rebar heightens the tension of being held together by acting as a splint. It is exhausted, hunched over, and defeated, relying heavily on one single piece of rebar to keep it from crumbling further. It is conflicted. Should it just let go, or should it build itself back up once again? It is a heavy structure, yet in the posture it holds, it becomes something light and quiet. The definition of a feat, which is what I've titled this sculpture to my right, is to be worn out, exhausted, or to have a loss of strength, courage, and spirit. I began to work with large lumber in this piece because I wanted it to be seen as what it is, worn down, warped wood. This piece is tenuous and threatening to itself. It has a self-contained tension. It is propped in the corner, yet every ounce of weight, hope, and faith that is left resides on this small, unsteady chunk on the floor. It is weak, needing to use the wall of support, yet slipping down it. This is also seen in my piece Torn, which is the one in the other room around the corner. It is also exhausted, resting on the wall, trying to keep itself from falling, yet pulling itself back up at the same time. It is not hiding the fact that it has fallen before. There are clear remnants from it slipping and falling left on the wall. But there's beauty in the way that it is lifted back up. Both of these pieces, A Feat and Torn, consistently leave one wondering what will happen over time. The size and placement of the pieces also interact with and influence how cautious the viewer should be around it. Each of my sculptures has the ability to stand autonomously or in relationship with one another. These large-scale sculptures are part of the same behavioral space that the viewer is in. In this way, they become confrontational. You have to deal with the work in relation to time and space, not as something that is completely removed from you in the environment that you inhabit. Removing work from a pedestal puts greater responsibility for participation and interaction on the viewer and how willing one is to actually engage the dialogue, the space, and the pieces that are in front of them. This is unlike sculpture that sits on a pedestal. Placing work on a pedestal removes the work from the viewer's space. It becomes something to idolize, something decorative, or something that's just out of reach. The process I use when creating my work is not mathematic or scientific at all. I engage life with high degrees of physicality. For me to think is to physically move things around. Richard Serra, an artist who has been most influential to me, states, "If you want to make art, you have to suspend judgment. You have to involve yourself in play and not worry about the outcome. This teaches us to see the unforeseen ways in new ways. You can't get into a lockstep motion for how you do what you do." Serra is a minimalist artist who is known for his large-scale sheet, metal, and lead sculptures. Richard Serra's works have tremendous presence. He wants the viewers to have an experience, a physical and visual relationship with the piece. In the early 1960s, Serra wrote something he called Bird List, where he said, "I hope to establish a series of conditions to enable me to work in an anticipated manner and provoke the unexpected." He used materials such as lead, rubber, and steel to enact the different verbs. His responses to the verbs to prop felt especially important to me. In his piece, One Ton Prop, there are 4 sheets of lead that are leaning against each other, forming a square, but only one edge of each of the sheets is touching each other. Serra states about this piece, "Even though it seemed it might collapse, it was in fact freestanding. You could see through it, look into it, and walk around it. This is what sculpture is." I strive to affect and interact with space as Serra does, and to grow and involve myself in my work so much that I am also able to create those new and unforeseen ways. Richard Serra's drawings have also been an influence on me. Drawing plays a crucial role in the investigation of new concepts and new creative methods. It is another way of exploring formal and perceptual relationships between the pieces and the viewers. Sarah's drawings are independent, yet they are still linked to his sculptural practice, which is something that I am striving for as well. Throughout every sculpture I create, there are small moments that sometimes go unnoticed, unless the viewer, actually takes the time to sit and view the piece. Acknowledge, which is the drawing right here to the left, makes you pay attention to all those small nuances. From viewing this drawing, one can be drawn to see the moments in the sculptures, like the bend in the rebar, or the angles, the tensions within each of the pieces, or the remnants that are left on the wall. As in my sculptures, one can see how unsteady and unstable the drawn lines are, yet there's such a strong form on the picture plane. It is heavy, rugged, and strong, but it is still delicate. The materials are not disguised. The paper is curved, frayed, and faded, showing that effort of still trying. Large-scale sculptures and drawings give form to the tension, weight, and deep exhaustion that I have felt through these unbalanced relationships. These sculptures are tired, hurt, and defeated, yet they show hope and strength in such difficult moments. If I can make a sculpture that's barely hanging on, yet still standing, then maybe I can do the same. Thank you.
Questions or comments?
How do you determine, or how did you determine, I guess, when a sculpture was like finished? Like how did you know when to stop bending it or attaching things to it, or chopping it more, or how do you, like, what kind of feelings led to like that completion and like satisfaction?
Well, sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I cut them a little bit too far, or I had to go get new rebar because I bent it way too much. But it mostly has to do with me portraying the postures of how exhausted that I felt through different relationships. I didn't want them to be completely on the ground or completely standing up straight, because I haven't felt that kind of balance throughout the relationships. And it's not any particular relationship, it's just the way that I am. So, yes.
This piece right here, you said that it needs to be leaning on something. Is there any representation of what that means? Like, is it like you're leaning on a person, your faith, some sort of anything?
I think it's a little bit of both. Like I said, this one's titled Self-Portrait, and the tension within it, it's like I feel like I'm being pulled one way and another because I care, but when it's too much to care, like when should I stop and back off? And I feel like most recently this year, I have been able to open up myself to continue to rely more on God in those situations, on knowing when it is, when enough is enough. And I've also, this year, well, the past few years, been able to get a lot closer with my mom, so I feel like she has helped keep me anchored and encouraged and to continue to keep going.
Can you speak to, like, maybe let them know, in the beginning, you know, for first semester, some of the other work was maybe more literal in terms of that relationships, dialogue you're talking about. Where these, maybe somebody coming in doesn't know you, doesn't have the words behind it yet. Is there something there beyond just the catalyst for you making that work, or, without that strict. I guess I don't know if I read them as literally as you just described. And is that okay? And what do you hope you would take away?
No, that is okay. First semester was terrible. I felt like I had to take specific materials to portray exactly what I was talking about. Like, I made things out of matches and set them on fire. And I made sculptures out of beer bottles. So I wanted I wanted you to know exactly what I was talking about. But with the materials that I use now, they evoke that sense, like, you know that this thing is just leaning there, like, it is just props laying, like, I don't have to tell you that. It does it, the pieces speak for themselves now, instead of me having to tell you every single little detail about it or visually putting it right there.
Looking at your work, it would seem it's very, just the work, labor, putting it up seems very exhaustive. And like, a lot of your ideas are about exhaustion. Does the creation of your work, like, correlate with that? Because I know, like, some of them have fallen on you, and does that seem, how does the process?
That is true. I have a scar on my leg from one of them falling on me. It does aid in the fact that it is an exhausting process putting these up. Most of the time I don't like to ask for help because I like to do things for myself. And which shows that a person can only do things for themselves so long before they're exhausted. And I feel like that also shows in my work. These things can only stay for so long without being exhausted. So I do think that plays a point or a crucial point in there, but it also opens up the door for me to understand that it's okay to have help sometimes. Kind of like in the piece, Hold Yourself Together with the splint, it's okay to have something else there helping me stand back up. So.
I think that you made a pretty obvious and good progression from the first semester into the second semester, and the way that the materials complement your ideas, because all the materials have this sort of baggage that comes with them, but you use that construction material sort of structure as part of your thing. Did you put together any pieces and figure out that they were about something else, other than, because you have a fairly narrow focus on what these pieces are about, about the ability to stand up and about the relationships, and they do that very well. But I'm wondering, like, how many pieces did you put together and go, oh my gosh, that's about something totally different. It's about global warming, or it's about... And so are you editing, and also, do you see these materials and this way of working as sort of limiting what you can talk about?
Well, I have made other things that talk about other things. There's a piece that I did in the first semester that I don't think that you saw, or many people did, where I put a cactus in a bowl of concrete, and it was in there, like, trying to breathe but being suffocated at the same time. So I kind of felt that a little bit. And can you ask me the second part of the question again?
I'm just curious about whether you think that, with as successful as these materials are in communicating what you want to get across, is there some point where they limit what you can communicate. If you, at some point in time, decide, I really want to make a work that's also about some other things. And then, did you make any pieces with these materials, like, that bent too far, or looked at them more like, wow, that's really about something else?
I think that I could still continue to work with these materials, because I have been also working with the idea of making these objects that are so heavy seem so light and quiet, and just like a quiet presence in the room, but they're so strong. And I think the piece in the other room, Torn, I don't know if you got to see that one yet. I think that was a turning point for me to realize that it wasn't just talking about like the negative aspects of the relationships, but also the positive. It had a little bit better of an outlook on it because it did fall and it is back up. So.
I have a question. So I know that and you said it in your talk as well, that you're like a very like physical thinker, like that's how you work through things. So I was just curious about how maybe like the drawing or the painting affected the way that you work and the way that you think, like if you think they're efficient in that way, or maybe they fall short of that.
Okay. They're both also kind of done physically. The reason the paper is bent and frayed is because I poured water on it and just continuously like rubbed it over and over again to get that texture. My arm hurt a little bit after that, so that was a little physical. And then the painting that's out in the hallway, I don't know if you guys have seen it or not, but it's 5 feet tall, and I went over it multiple times with sawdust and paint and paint thinner. And so I think there was a repetition maybe with that one that correlates with these other ones as well.
There's a really nice excess in your work. There's a sense that they're kind of minimal. I mean, it's like Richard Sayre's work is so excessive, but it's like minimal but over the top. And I really appreciate the excessive quality of your materials. But to what do you attribute that? I mean, is that like reserves of strength? Is that to make it extra quiet? Like why the excessive, what's the role of the excessive material?
I feel like it's because I want it to be seen as, I do want it to be quiet, but I still want it to be this presence in the room, maybe. And I feel like that's how, like the excessiveness is how that I can portray that. I don't know if maybe that would correlate also into my drawing, like how I'm excessively like, just continuously drawing lines over and over as well. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I just think it's interesting. I mean, even in painting class, you paint like tons of lines and then paint over them several times. And I just think I just wonder if there's like this secret. Even to install that thing, you're saying something about your own reserves of strength, and that's sort of embedded in just the materials.